All right, everyone. Jeremy Knopf here with another episode of the Public Relations Declassified live stream. And today we're going to talk about something that, to me, I feel is incredibly important in getting featured in the media. It's also really important when it comes to social media as well. And that is how to leverage trending topics to get featured in the media. Now, the same way that this applies to, using this in your pitches to make them more compelling, it also applies to the content that you're creating on social media. And the way that this works, the way that trending topics not only help you get featured in the media, but also end up helping your content to reach a larger audience, is because when people are talking about a particular topic and it becomes this trending topic, it tends to show up in the algorithm more. And because everybody else is seeing it, everybody else is hearing other people talking about it, they're more likely to engage on it. They're more likely to like, comment, and share. They're more likely to talk about it. They may send your post to other people. But where we're going to specifically address it today is primarily from the media aspect of it and using it in your pitches so that your pitch will be more compelling to the journalists who you're pitching your story to. And this is important because there's so many topics going on at any given time, but a journalist is judged by basically the value that they bring to that media outlet. So what happens is they're expected to drive a certain amount of eyeballs, viewers, readers, whatever the medium may be leveraging. They're expected to get the audience engaged, and they do that by talking about topics that other people are interested in and other people are currently talking about. So this is where trending topics becomes so important, right? If it's a topic that people are passionate about, they're engaging on the topic, then they're more likely to read the article. They're more likely to watch the news segment. So journalists love to talk about trending topics because it helps them in their career. So we definitely want to leverage this. The problem a lot of people run into is they don't quite know how to leverage those trending topics, right? Let's say you're a lawyer or an engineer or an accountant, whatever, and there's something trending that has nothing to do with you. A lot of people think, oh, well, I can't use that. That doesn't have anything to do with me. Good example of this is, lately, Cindy Sweeney has been trending a lot. Now, most people would look at that and they would say, okay, well, great. That's pop culture. That has nothing to do with me or my business in any way. The reality is there are interesting ways that you can turn just about any topic into something that's relevant to you and what you're doing. We're going to break down some of those, but what I want to run through real quick here is we're going to talk first about how to find these trending topics. I don't think, we are going to go ahead and do a screen share. Let me just open up something that we can share this. I'm going to go ahead and pull up one of the places that you can find trending topics. I'm going to pull up Reddit. So I will warn you guys in advance. Reddit is a complete shit show. I hate the platform with every fiber of my being. It's a very toxic place, okay? But there is a lot of data to be had in terms of what's trending, what people are talking about. We'll switch this up so you guys can see this a little bit better here. Okay, so right now we are on Reddit. I'm going to go ahead and hide this join our Facebook group icon for now. All right, so over here on the left column where you can see my mouse hovering over these menu items, we can see some of these options in the navigation. So this popular tab is where you want to start on Reddit. So we went ahead and clicked on that. And here we can now see a lot of the topics that are trending in Reddit right now. So this is a good place to find a lot of the topics that are trending and then potentially use them in your pitches. Now, like I said, Not a fan of Reddit for a variety of reasons. You're going to find a lot of toxic shit here. You're going to find a lot of completely batshit crazy things here. But you can find good data if you're willing to kind of wade through the noise here a bit. We've got this carousel up here. You can kind of zip through this. I was looking at some of the trending topics this morning. Toy Story 5 is actually one of the ones we're going to be addressing and using it as an example to basically show you guys how to make that applicable to you and what you're doing. Northern Lights was another interesting one. I think that will generally be a little bit too far outside of relevance for most. But Toy Story 5 was one of the examples that we're going to be using here today. But use the carousel and then also scroll through this. So some interesting things there. All right. Another one that we want to look at is we want to look at X. So let's see if this will pull up for me. It will. Okay, cool. So we're now on X. We're going to go to the Explore tab. And then you've got a few different tabs up here across the top. What I like to do, so you've got right here some of the trending topics right out of the gate. Don't know what USCD is. Trump and Epstein, Virginia Giuffre, House Democrats, NASDAQ, and Sam Rockwell. But if you go to the trending tab, you'll see a much larger list of the various trending topics and where they rank. So you've got a lot of options here. And this is a great source to find a lot of other relevant trending topics that can help make your pitches more effective so that you do end up turning them into an actual media feature. You can also take a look at the news tab, the sports tab, and the entertainment tab. I'm not sure. I don't remember off the top of my head if these change based on any of the things that you categories that you liked when you created your X account initially. But you can find pretty much whatever you need here in the trending tab regardless. So this is another great place to find some of the trending topics. And then we're also going to look at Google Trends. So, oops, that's the RSS feed. We don't want that. Oh, come on. There we go. All right, so now we are at Google Trends. And what I like to do here is I will then go to this Trending Now tab. And you're going to see a list, and you can actually make this a larger list if you want. Right now it's just showing 25 per page. You can change it to 50 per page. But this is showing the trending topics in Google right now. And again, we see here Toy Story 5. I've been following this one since about 4 this morning. And this one is actually maintaining its level of virality, I guess would be the word we're going to use here. So this is an example of a really good one to work with because it's not just a blip. Like if we look at Northern Lights, let's see how that one. Yeah, so Northern Lights was just a spike and a dump. There was another one earlier this morning about the Mega Millions. So that's another example. And we'll talk more about the logistics of some of these trends and where and how to use them. But let's go ahead and jump into one of the first trends that we're going to use as an example. And then we'll talk about how to create a hook for that ties everything all together. So when we're going to do this, let me go ahead and kill this screen share for a minute. Boom. All right. So when we're going to leverage a trending topic in our pitch, there's a few steps that we need to take for this. The first is to craft a powerful hook, right? I like to open up my pitch generally with a single sentence, something that somebody's going to be able to quickly glance at and read without kind of being overwhelmed by a wall of text. And you have to have this structured in such a way that it's relevant to their audience, and you have to connect it to your industry and expertise. So we're going to walk through a little bit about how to do that here. The first example that we're going to pull up is the Mega Millions drawing. Now, as I mentioned, when I pulled it up in Google over here, you see two distinct spikes here. There's a little bit of activity and then boom, and then drops off for a bit and then boom. What I'm drawing from this is leading up to the drawing, you had a big surge in interest. And then following that, when it's time for the results, that's when the next spike happened. So a topic like this is going to be very time sensitive, right? If we're talking about something like a lottery drawing, which is definitely a newsworthy kind of trending topic, then you're going to have to basically work inside of a window of like the day before or the day after. Something in that range, right? That's your kind of start point and end point. Nobody's going to be talking about a lottery drawing a week or a month in advance, and they're not going to be talking about it afterwards either. So we have to be really mindful of the time frame that we're working with on this. So here's an example of kind of an opening hook that would be effective for tying a topic like this together. So let's say you're in the financial industry in some way, right? Maybe you're a financial planner, maybe you're an analyst, whatever the case may be. So a good topic, let's switch these up so that they're a little bit bigger for y'all. 3 retirement planning essentials for everyone who didn't win the Mega Millions drawing last night. Now, if you hit a journalist with this the day after the drawing, there's a really good chance that's going to be a topic that they would be interested in. You might even pitch them this topic ahead of time. Something like this, you could probably pitch. You really could probably pitch this maybe even as much as a week in advance, with the plan kind of for the article to go live, the day of the drawing or the day after the drawing, something like that. So we're still leveraging that trending topic in a powerful way, but we're not ignoring the time aspect of it, right? Like 2 weeks from now, this is going to be a stupid topic. So if we hit this at the right time and we structure it in a way like this is a great way to get a journalist to really kind of pop up and take notice of what you're talking about. And then from there, of course, the rest of your pitch is about you reinforcing, your background, your expertise, why you're qualified to opine on this. And we've talked about the entire pitch in some previous episodes. Right now, we're just going to address the hook aspect and tying it into the trending topics. So this would be a great way to take even a very time-sensitive topic like a lottery drawing and connect it to your industry. So we've got another one we're going to pull up here. The Hong Koi. I have no idea. I don't. I can't tell you how to pronounce that. But this is essentially that bridge in China that collapsed. I think it was yesterday was when it first started. Basically, the short version of this story, if you're not familiar, is they had built this massive bridge in China, and it was near this mountain. And for whatever reason, they didn't really plan it as well as they should, and a landslide ended up completely collapsing the bridge. Now, for trending topics like this, you have to be very careful not to come off in a ghoulish way, right? You're talking about a thing where, massive damage, both in terms of the bridge itself as well as ecological. There may have been people that died. I don't know. I haven't followed that story super closely. But in cases like this, natural disaster, terrorism, accidents, things like that, we want to leverage them in a way that ties everything together, but we also want to be human about it, right? We don't want to, here's an example of a terrible way to approach this. You would not want to use this to pitch a story about life insurance. That would just be absolutely ghoulish. People would think you're a piece of shit. And frankly, I think they would be right. So we want to leverage this in a way where we're coming off not as opportunistic, but as providing value in some meaningful way. So an example of a good hook to tie in with this topic would be what the Hong Koi Bridge collapse can teach engineers about planning for edge case scenarios. Now, in this case, we're basically looking at it as an after action report almost, right? And for those of you who are not familiar with an after action report, this is something that comes primarily from the military after every operation, whether it's combat or training. What we'll do is we'll go and we'll look at everything that happened in that operation and evaluate, what did we do right? What did we do wrong? How can we get it better? How can we make it smoother, faster, less impactful from a budgetary perspective, from a manpower perspective, from a casualty perspective, and how can we make it more effective from a mission accomplishment perspective, right? So they do these things in the business world as well, not quite as much like we did it in the military all the time, but this would be a good example to kind of look through some of the things that as an engineer you might do to plan for what some may consider kind of an extreme outlier, something that is unlikely to happen but could. And this is the kind of thing that engineers have to plan for. And this is a tactful, good way to approach a topic like this and use it in your pitch. Whereas, like I mentioned before, using it to pitch life insurance would be a terrible idea, right? So we have to be just mindful of how what we're saying could potentially be perceived. Okay, next one up, Toy Story 5. This is my favorite one. I love this because it's lighthearted and nostalgic, right? My kid was just a little tiny guy when Toy Story was first coming out. Well, I'm trying to think of when the hell did Toy Story come out? I don't remember now that I'm thinking about it, but I remember him watching Toy Story, the first one, on repeat, just constantly, right? And so, at this point, we've seen everyone from the first one to 4. When 5 comes out, we'll definitely see it. But this is really cool because people, especially parents, but also younger adults who maybe were kids when this movie came out, can have a connection to this. There's that nostalgic component. And so this is a really good way, and there's almost no downside to a topic like this. Like, you can't fuck this up. So an example of a good hook that we can use in our pitch as it relates to Toy Story. And by the way, take a look at this graph. Toy Story is maintaining pretty steady, right? And that indicates the kind of public sentiment about that topic, right? It's the kind of thing that there's not just this quick spike and then it's gone. This is something that people are talking about right now, but it's also something they're going to be talking about probably for several days, maybe longer, just depending on exactly when the movie comes out. I think the trailer just dropped today. So this is a good one because it's got a lot of feel-good emotion to it, but it's also something that's got a little bit more longevity to it than some other topics. So a potential hook for this particular topic that we worked up is leadership lessons from Toy Story that you can use to get your team aligned with your mission. So let's say you're a CEO, or you're a leadership consultant, or you're a coach of some sort. This would be right up your alley, right? You're going to be talking about leadership in your normal course of business. And now when you can tie it to Toy Story, because if you've seen the movie, there's so many really cool lessons you can pull from kind of how they did what they were trying to do. I don't want to give anything away about any of the movies if you guys haven't seen them yet, but they had a particular thing they had to accomplish, and they all kind of worked together. And of course, there were some bumps and bruises along the way. So this is a great way to take a topic that a lot of people are familiar with, a lot of people are talking about, and tie it to, in this case, leadership. And now you take this great story that so many people are engaged on, and you tie it to what you're doing. This is a great hook that a lot of journalists would see this, and they would definitely be interested enough to continue reading the rest of your pitch. So these are some of the ways that we can use trending topics in our pitches, right? We want to be careful what we're picking. We want to pick a topic that's going to have a little bit of longevity. Something that's going to spike and disappear in a few hours is generally not going to be very effective. If you've got a few days out of that topic where people are going to be interested in it, then it's generally a worthwhile endeavor. We want to look at specifically what that topic is and the sentiment around it to determine how we're going to craft our opening hook. And then, like I said, from there, we roll into the rest of the pitch, which we've covered the entirety of the pitch in previous episodes. So if you have not seen those, I encourage you guys to head over to YouTube and check those out. A lot of great information in there. But hopefully this gives you guys a lot of great insight about not only how to find these trending topics, but how to use them in your pitch to get a journalist to open it up and read the full pitch so that you're likely to get featured in the media, which of course then helps you to become a recognized authority in your industry. And, you know, all the good things that come with that, attracting more opportunities, making more money, all of that. So we're going to go ahead and roll into Jeremy's PR PSA, which today is expertise alone. We'll switch those up so it's a little bigger for you. Expertise alone is not enough to get featured in the media. You also need to get people emotionally engaged so that you stand out from your competitors. And that's what we're doing here with these trending topics. We're not just using them just because everybody talks about it. Like, we're using them because we need a way to cut through the noise. If you just come up here and say, hey, I'm this person with all these designations after my name, and I've got an MBA and a PhD, and here's all the reasons I'm the best. Nobody gives a shit about that. You have to engage them emotionally before they're going to bother digging deep into your pitch. And that's kind of the foundation of public relations. You have to create an emotional component to the messaging that you're putting out there. So we hook the journalists emotionally first. And keep in mind, when we're trying to hook the journalist, it's less about them. It's more about the audience, right? Who is their audience? We have to get the audience hooked. And what we're using this hook for is to show the journalist basically how this will hook their audience. So we have to get them hooked on the topic before we start going into why we're the most qualified person to talk about this, right? So we open up with that hook, and then from there, we follow the rest of the pitch structure that I've shared with you guys before. That's how you get them to pay attention, and that's how you stand out from the competition, because all of your competitors are out there, you know, trying to get featured. They're pitching their story, and probably 99% of them, if not more, are leading with their qualifications and their background and their story. And that is not going to get them the results. So if you follow this approach, leverage the trending topics to get people emotionally engaged in the story that you're pitching, you're going to get a lot more media features, and more people are going to actually engage on that feature as well, right? More people will read it. More people will watch the segment or listen to the podcast or whatever it may be. So take advantage of this. It's a huge opportunity, and it's going to give you a tremendous advantage over any of your competitors who are out here trying to pitch their story to the media. All right, guys, that's a wrap for today. If you have not joined our free Facebook group, I encourage you guys to hit that QR code up there. I never can remember which way we're pointing here with the camera. That QR code will take you straight into our free Facebook group, where not only do we stream the PRD live stream, but we also share other information and answer your questions as well. If you guys got value out of this, I would love it if you'd share it with somebody who could find value in it. And I look forward to seeing you all in the next episode. Thanks, everyone.